I never believed the stories. Not really. Missing 411, strange disappearances, legends of people swallowed by the Appalachian Mountains, it all sounded like conspiracy theory nonsense to me. Folklore stretched out of proportion, told around campfires to scare tourists. I used to laugh when people whispered about the woods that take you. But I don't laugh anymore. Because now, when I close my eyes, I still see the trail. The crooked wooden sign at the entrance, leaning against the weight of decades, its letters almost eaten by rot. The way the air shifted the moment I stepped past it, thick, heavy, like I'd crossed into something alive. I should have turned back right then. You see, the Appalachians are beautiful during the day. Rolling ridges stretching endlessly under the sun, fog spilling like ghostly rivers at dawn, wildflowers blooming in open meadows. But beauty hides things. It lures you in. It makes you forget that for every trail marker, there are a dozen unmarked paths where people vanish without a trace. They say once you're in too deep, the mountains decide whether you leave or not. At first, I thought that was just some backwoods superstition. Until I learned about the disappearances. Hikers vanishing in broad daylight, only to be found if they were found at all miles away in places no human could reach. Campsites discovered with food still cooking, but no sign of the people who had been there minutes earlier. Shoes carefully removed and left behind, as if the mountains themselves wanted to peel them apart piece by piece. I should have listened to the old man at the gas station. He saw the map in my hand, the hiking pack slung over my shoulder, and shook his head. "Don't go up there," he warned me, his voice trembling more than I expected. "People go missing. Good people. And if the mountains want you, there ain't no coming back." I laughed it off. Just another local trying to scare outsiders. But when he grabbed my arm, his fingers ice cold. His eyes hollow like he'd seen something he wished he could forget, that's when the first crack of doubt crept in. Still, I went. And I wish I hadn't. Because I'm going to tell you why people keep vanishing in the Appalachian Mountains. And when I'm done, maybe you'll understand why I'll never go back. The trailhead was marked, but just barely. A weathered post leaned sideways, the paint flaking so badly I could hardly read the name of the path. Beyond it, the forest stretched upward in endless waves of green and shadow, swallowing the horizon like an open mouth. I told myself it was just a hike. Just miles of dirt and trees, like I'd done 100 times before. But the moment I stepped past the marker, I felt it again, that shift in the air. The quiet was too thick, too absolute. The first mile was uneventful. Fallen leaves crunching beneath my boots, birds flitting through the branches overhead. If anything, I felt silly for letting the old man's words rattle around in my head. The forest was beautiful. Golden light pierced through the canopy, scattering across the undergrowth. A deer darted across the path and vanished between the trees, as if reminding me this was just nature. But then, the further I walked, the stranger it became. The sounds of the forest grew, uneven. A bird would call, but no answer came. The breeze would stir, but the leaves didn't move. It was as though I had entered a place where the rules bent slightly, like an echo chamber where reality warped just enough for me to notice. That's when I saw the first sign. A poster, nailed crooked to a tree, edges frayed and bleached from rain. The face of a young woman stared back at me. Missing was scrawled across the top in bold black letters. The date was from 3 years ago. I stopped, staring at it, the silence pressing down like a weight. A mile later, there was another. A man this time. Same word across the top, missing. The hairs on my neck rose. I'd heard about the disappearances, but seeing their faces staring back at me among the trees, it made the stories real in a way I wasn't ready for. And then I found the shoe. It was lying just off the trail, a hiking boot half buried in moss, the laces neatly tied. I bent down, picking it up, half expecting something to be inside. But it was empty. Just left there. I dropped it and hurried back to the trail. By the third mile, the forest had grown darker. The canopy closed in, choking out the light. And that's when I realized something was wrong with the path itself. It looped. I'm certain of it. I'd marked a tree with my knife just to make sure. 10 minutes later, I passed the same tree, the gash in its bark staring back at me like an accusation. I tried again, veering off onto a faint deer path, pushing through underbrush until I rejoined the main trail. But somehow, impossibly, I came back to that same tree again. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. Carved into the trunk, just beneath my mark, were symbols. Jagged, crooked shapes, etched deep into the wood. They weren't initials. They weren't natural. And the longer I looked at them, the more they seemed to shift. Like the angles moved if I stared too long. The forest was watching me. I could feel it. And for the first time that day, I understood why people vanish here. By the time the sun began to sink, I was already lost. I told myself I wouldn't let it happen, that I'd stay on the main path, keep my bearings, follow the markers. But the markers had stopped appearing miles ago, and no matter how carefully I tried to retrace my steps, I kept circling back to the same place. The tree with the shifting symbols. The half-buried boot. The crooked poster nailed to the bark. It was as though the forest was folding in on itself. I stopped to rest just as the last light bled out of the sky. That's when I realized how quickly night falls in the Appalachians. One moment, the trees are golden with evening light, the next, they're nothing but black pillars against a curtain of shadow. I lit my flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, but only for a few feet. Beyond that, the forest swallowed everything whole. And that's when the noises started. At first it was faint. A shuffle, like something dragging across the leaves. I spun around, the light darting between the trees, but nothing was there. My own breathing sounded too loud, too desperate, echoing against the silence. Then came the whisper. I thought it was the wind at first, but there was no breeze. The voice was low, almost hidden in the stillness, but I heard it. My name. Clear. Drawn out as though spoken by someone who knew me. My blood ran cold. I shouted into the dark, my voice cracking. Who's there? No answer. Only the trees, silent and endless. I started walking faster, the flashlight trembling in my grip. Every step felt like I was being herded, pushed deeper into a place I didn't want to go. The forest wasn't random anymore, it was deliberate. It was leading me somewhere. And then I saw the light. At first, I thought it was another hiker. A lantern glow, faint but steady, swaying between the trees. Relief flooded through me. I wasn't alone. I hurried toward it, calling out. But the closer I got, the further it seemed. No matter how quickly I moved, the glow stayed the same distance ahead, weaving between the trunks like it was teasing me. Finally, I stopped. My chest heaving, my legs shaking. That's when I realized something horrible. There were no footsteps but mine. And the light wasn't a lantern at all. It flickered too smoothly, like a flame that didn't need air. And when I shone my flashlight toward it, the glow didn't illuminate the trees around it. It just hung there, unnatural, suspended in the dark like a lure. Then it vanished. The forest went silent again. And I understood, it wasn't trying to guide me out. It was trying to lead me deeper. That's when the screams began. They came from somewhere in the dark, sharp and sudden. A man's voice, cut off mid-breath. Then a woman, shrieking like her throat was being torn open. I stumbled back, my flashlight beam jerking wildly across the trees, but the sounds were everywhere, close, far, echoing from directions that made no sense. I knew then why the posters lined the trees. Why the boot was left behind. Why the old man's voice had shaken when he warned me. The mountains weren't just swallowing people. They were hunting them. The screams faded as quickly as they had begun, cut off like someone had pressed a hand over a mouth. But the silence that followed was worse. It wasn't empty, it was heavy, buzzing, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting for me to move. I forced myself forward, flashlight trembling in my hand. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but the trail no longer existed. It twisted, doubled back, and then disappeared entirely into blackness. I don't know when I first noticed the figures. At the edge of my beam, between the trunks, I thought I saw shapes. Tall, motionless, watching. Their outlines melted with the shadows, but I swear I saw shoulders, limbs too long, heads tilting slightly as if curious. When I turned the light directly on them, there was nothing there. Only trees. But the moment I turned away, they'd be closer. The whispers grew stronger. Not just my name now, but words, broken, fragmented sentences. Some sounded like pleas for help. Others were guttural, animalistic, as though spoken in a language no human throat should make. They crawled under my skin, vibrating in my bones. I tried to check my phone. Dead. No signal, no battery, even though I had charged it fully before the hike. The screen flickered once, and in that brief flash, I swear I saw something in the reflection behind me. A face. Pale. Hollow-eyed. Leaning too close. I dropped the phone, heart hammering. When I picked it back up, the screen was cracked straight down the middle. The forest didn't want me calling for help. Time became strange after that. I'd walked for what felt like hours, but when I checked my watch, the hands hadn't moved. The night stretched endlessly, as though the sun had been erased from the sky. My stomach growled, but when I tried to eat from my pack, the food tasted of ash, crumbling in my mouth until I gagged and spat it into the dirt. And then I began to hear footsteps. Not behind me. Not ahead. But around. Dozens of them, circling in the dark, crunching against leaves in a rhythm too steady, too deliberate. I froze, spinning in every direction, but my light caught nothing. Until it did. Just for a second, the beam landed on something pale between the trees. A figure, standing barefoot in the underbrush, clothes torn, head cocked at an impossible angle. Its skin was gray, stretched too thin over its frame. I blinked, and it was gone. I ran then. No path, no direction, just ran. Branches whipped my face, roots clotted my boots, but I didn't stop. Not until I burst into a clearing. And that's when I realized I wasn't the first one here. Torn tents littered the ground, their fabric shredded as though by claws. A campfire sat in the middle, burned down to black ash, though no one had been here in years. Backpacks, clothes, cooking gear, all scattered, all abandoned. And then I saw them. Piles of shoes. Dozens of them, stacked neatly at the edge of the clearing. Boots, sneakers, sandals, children's shoes. All lined up as if arranged by careful hands. My breath caught in my throat. That was when I heard it. A voice, closer than before, whispering right into my ear though no one stood near me. You shouldn't have come here. The whisper froze me in place. My skin prickled as if a cold hand had slid down my spine. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting through the clearing, but there was nothing. Only the rows of shoes, waiting silently, like a graveyard of the forgotten. I stumbled back, my breath ragged, when another sound broke the silence. A low hum. Deep, resonant, like it came from the ground itself. The soil trembled under my boots, and the ash in the old fire pit stirred though there was no wind. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest, until I realized it wasn't coming from the earth, it was coming from the trees. I raised the light, and that's when I saw them. Faces. Not human, not fully. Dozens of them, pressed into the bark of the surrounding trees. Eyes closed, mouths open in silent screams. Their features warped by the grain, twisted into grotesque masks of terror. Some looked fresh, detailed, almost alive. Others had been stretched and smoothed by years of growth, but their agony was still etched there, permanent. I stumbled forward, my heart hammering. My light landed on one face in particular, eyes sunken, jaw slack. And though I'd never seen him before, I recognized him. It was the man from one of the missing posters. My stomach lurched. The whispers returned, but now they were coming from the faces themselves. Mouths that didn't move, yet voices leaked out of them. Pleading. Begging. Warning me to run. I staggered back, but my heel caught on something soft. I turned and saw it, a pile of clothes, folded neatly, untouched by weather. On top sat a journal. Hands shaking, I picked it up and flipped it open. The handwriting was frantic, uneven. The words smeared, but I could make out fragments. The lights, they followed me. Can't leave, the trail leads back. They live in the trees, the mountain takes what it wants. If you hear your name, don't answer. The final page was nothing but scratches. Deep gouges that tore through the paper as if the writer had tried to carve their way out of the book itself. I dropped it and staggered back, while burning my throat. And then, in the corner of the clearing, I saw something move. A figure stepped out from between the trees. Tall. Wrong. Its limbs too long, bending at angles that defied bone. The flashlight trembled in my hand as I lifted it toward the thing and instantly wished I hadn't. Its skin was the same gray as the faces in the bark, stretched tight over a frame that seemed half human, half something else. Its eyes were pits of shadow, but its mouth, God, its mouth was wide and grinning, filled with teeth that didn't belong in any human skull. It didn't walk. It glided. Each step unnaturally smooth, like the forest bent beneath it to carry it forward. And in a voice that was mine, exactly mine, it spoke. You shouldn't have come here. My legs gave out. My flashlight hit the ground, beams skittering across the shoes, the tents, the faces in the trees. That's when I finally understood. The mountains don't just take people. They keep them. I tried to run. My legs felt like lead, every step dragging me deeper into the soil as though the ground itself wanted to hold me down. The clearing tilted, spinning, the trees bending inward like a cage closing around me. Behind me, the thing laughed. Not with sound, but with my own voice. My laugh, bouncing back at me, hollow and cruel. Where are you going? It called, in my tone. There's no leaving. You're already part of this place. I stumbled into the tree lean, branches tearing at my skin. My flashlight beam flickered, dying with each desperate jolt of my hand. Ahead, I saw it again, that faint glow, the same false lantern I'd chased before. And for a moment, in my terror, I ran toward it. But as I broke into another pathless stretch of woods, I saw what it truly was. Not a light. Not salvation. It was a face. A face stretched wide in the dark, glowing from within like embers beneath skin. Its eyes were hollow sockets, its mouth open too wide, and inside it burned with that same impossible fire. I screamed. The world tilted again. The trees folded, twisted, closing like a fist round me. And just before the flashlight died, I saw them. All of them. The missing. Standing silently in the shadows. Men, women, children. Their faces slack, their eyes empty. Their mouths opening in unison as a single whisper bled into the night. Stay. I dropped the flashlight. The last thing I remember was the beam rolling across the ground, landing on a single shoe lying in the dirt. Mine. The light sputtered out. And then, nothing.